I'm Shireen with Olive Street Designs, and follow along as I refinish this beautiful Henredon long 9-drawer dresser. This one comes in at just over 80 inches. It's a big one, and it's got some issues. Broken drawer. The top, of course, is worn, as you'd expect with this age. We've got some chunks of veneer missing. This was chosen from my inventory and customized, so let's get started. I'm going to start by removing the hardware. We're going to try and reuse this hardware because it's very unique. It's solid brass, and of course, with this era, but just really cool design. So I'm glad that the new owner has decided to reuse it. First thing I do when I remove the drawers is go in and number them all. These actually all have a very specific space. They can only go in 1 or 2 places, so I numbered everything. And then I'm going to give it a good cleaning. I vacuumed everything out. I'm going to go in with some Green Easy cleaner. I use a crud cutter a lot. I also mix in this Green Easy cleaner. I really like it. I'm going to turn my shop vac into a dust collector for my sander, and this is an adapter I got off of Amazon. I removed the just little dust collector that comes with it. That fits right on my sander, and then my vacuum cleaner connects to it. So it's a really easy, affordable option with connecting your regular orbital sander to a shop vac. You would think that when my shop vac and my sander are both DeWalt that they'd be compatible, but they are not, so that little adapter was super handy. I'm just giving everything a good scuff sanding. I'm not taking this down to bare wood because we're going to be painting it, but I do want to make sure everything is sanded really well. So I did the top, doing the sides. Now I'm taking another foam pad because I've got some areas that are rounded, and I want to be able to go ahead and sand them with my orbital but not damage it. So I put that on there. The sandpaper goes on right on top, and then go ahead and get sanding here. The base, as you'd expect with something that's 50, 60 years old, is, full of dents and dings, so I want to give that a good sanding. This veneer is peeling, it's coming off, so I'm going to just help it get all the way off. I'm just using a simple chisel, but it makes quick work of getting this off of here. Sand it smooth. And I'm looking at the grain on top, and this is a really heavy grain oak. It's not going to look great painted because you'll be able to really see it. So I'm going to clean this up, and we're going to fill in a lot of that grain. And the veneer on the front decided it didn't like being there either, so I just peeled it right off. And if you're like me, getting a piece of veneer off like that, a gem. I'm going to hold on to that. So I'm using the wood filla in a bag by Good Filla. And it's a powder, so you can make it any consistency, and that's why I use it for this. So I make it like a slurry, kind of a thick slurry or pancake batter, I guess would be a good way to describe it. This one's great because there's no measuring, and I do have gloves on, so I can go ahead and just smear everything around very easily. And I'm just trying to work it into that wood grain. Yeah, that's just going to settle right in there, and I'll come back and sand this later. For now, I'm going to start working on the drawers, just getting everything sanded. I've got 9 of everything to do, so we're just going to speed this up. And then I got the Surfprep to do all of the little square areas, the indent part. This drawer is broken. It's got a chunk missing off the top there, so I've got to fix that. This drawer, however, this is a problem. The whole side has a big piece missing. So there's supposed to be a lip on that side. There's one on the other side, and that's cracked as well. But let's first fix the one with the part of the top missing. So I'm using JB Weld's multi-purpose putty. This is very similar to the all-purpose Bondo. Mix that up. apply it there, and then once that gets set, we're going to sand it smooth and make a nice clean edge. In the meantime, I've got to address this broken drawer. Drawer number 5 is a problem. So the one side of the drawer is missing a chunk. This side is cracked, so I'm using some wood glue to reattach it, and I'm going to clamp everything just until it gets all set up and nice and solid. The other side, however, is going to be a problem. I do have some parts and pieces of some other old drawers from dressers that I've dismantled. I'm so glad I kept this. It's the perfect piece of wood for this. So now that I know that it's actually going to work, I need to measure how much I need to cut. And then I'm going to take my table saw and rip a piece that goes down to replace the side, but then I also need something to attach it to, so I'm going to be ripping 2 different boards here. Okay, so I've got one that's going to match and go down the side. I'm going to need to adjust the length, obviously. And I'm using a Dremel to smooth this out. When that piece broke off, it was a little uneven, and I want to make a clean edge so the other board sits on there nicely. So I've got both boards now, and I just need to cut to the right length. Get these marked up real quick, make some cuts, and we'll see if we can't get this drawer fully repaired. These are looking good, so I'm just going to go ahead and glue them down. I've got one that's going to sit on the drawer, and that's going to help to give some support to the one that goes on the side wall of the drawer. Adding some glue now to that second piece. And just like a puzzle, it's going to go back together again, and I think that's going to work perfectly. There it is. So you can see the piece that's sitting on the drawer and then the one that goes on the side. I'm going to add some clamps to hold that in place while everything dries. And I'm going to go ahead and take my brad nailer also and attach the side piece to the one that's glued to the bottom of the drawer, and then also from the front, just to hold everything in place. Okay, now that the drawer is done, I get back to this wood grain. So time to sand off all that wood filler. It's still making a mess even though I have this hooked up to my vacuum. This is a messy process, so do this outside. But now you can see how much of that wood grain was filled. It really feels so much smoother to the touch. This is going to accept the paint so much better, and you won't see so much wood grain. It really makes a big difference. Time to clean up this other drawer also with the Bondo. So this is the drawer that was missing the chunk off the top. I put Bondo all across there, and then I'm going to sand this smooth and make a nice clean edge. Bondo is really great for this over wood filler because it's so much stronger. But now you can see I've got a nice straight clean edge. And I have all kinds of sanders, but sometimes you still have to do some hand sanding, and these little rubber blocks are a huge help. They just mold directly to, they just are the same size as that space. So I wrap a piece of sandpaper around it and I sand, and it just gets right in there. If you don't have any of those, you need them. And I know that the length of this dresser, being nearly 81 inches long, needs the center support. It's broken. And they are a lot of time because people, when they move their furniture, don't realize there's a foot under there, and it rubs on carpet or whatever and just snaps off. So I need to make a new little foot. So I've estimated what I need. This doesn't have to be exact because my little foot that I'm going to be adding is adjustable. So I'm just creating something that's, I think this is 3 or 4 inches long. It's short. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to be putting in a hanger bolt on one end And then there'll be a T-nut that goes into the dresser, so this whole thing will screw into the dresser. On the other end is a little foot that's adjustable, so that will screw in and out. All right, time to get started. I've got to drill a decent size hole for that hanger bolt. They're 5/16. So this is kind of a pilot hole, and then I'm going to measure the length of the hanger bolt so that I make sure that I'm getting it deep enough that the bolt will go all the way down into the wood. So I just put a piece of painter's tape around my drill bit, and then I drill down until I hit the tape, and then I know that that's when I should stop. I know it's hard to see. I didn't set my camera up in the best place, but I will show you in a second here. And so that's going to be the receiver for the little foot, and that screws in with an Allen wrench. And then the hanger bolt is going to go on the other end. I need a little help from my pliers. I didn't show it, but I did put the little adjustable foot. I screwed that into the end as well. And now I need to drill a hole into the bottom of the dresser for the T-nut, and I'm hammering that in. I can't use the same exact place that it was before because what was in there was all broken off and there's staples there. So one end is the hanger bolt, the other end is the little adjustable foot. Get that screwed into place. The feet aren't very long, so this is kind of a little thing, but very necessary. It's a huge span to not be supported in the middle. So I'll just adjust that foot. And now I need to stand it up and make sure I've got everything how I need it. This is a big, heavy dresser. Get into there and adjust that foot so it's touching the floor. And when the new owners get home, they'll have to do the same thing and adjust it to their floor. But you can see, now we have some support. Time to get this all cleaned up. This is so much easier because the drawers are numbered, so I know exactly where they go. I don't have to play drawer Jenga. There's my drawer repair, and I did sand that down because I filled in just a little bit of a gap there, and I want to blend this in a little better. I have two completely different types of wood I'm dealing with. So I just have a little gel stain that I'm going to be doing on the side here just to make it less noticeable. I sprayed some water on it to dilute it a bit. And drawer number 5 is going to go in. I'm putting a little adjustable screw in there. Those act as my temporary handles while I'm painting, and fits like a glove. Oh, such a great feeling. Time to paint, so this is an extra large dresser. I need an extra large spray tent. So 81 inches is big. It would never fit in my normal tent. And it is time to prime. I am using a tinted primer here. This is gray. I get lots of questions about primer. I just prefer it. I prefer it gray. Even when I'm painting white or any color, I always use gray. I just think it covers better. This is a bonding primer. I never want my paint to come off. And in between coats, I do sand it. I use this sponge. This is a 320 grit. And I sand the entire surface just lightly, but it makes a noticeable difference after you sand it. That's what gives you that smooth finish. However, that wood grain is just not going away. It's better, but it's not great. So I'm going to take wood filler once again. This is a powdered wood filler, and I'm going to do the same process I did before. Sometimes it takes a couple times. When the wood grain is really that pronounced, it sometimes just takes a couple of times. So going through the same process, just smooth it out everywhere, and I'll let it sit until it gets dried. Sand it down once again. And over the top of the primer, you can see how much more wood grain was filled in because you can see the white. That's the filler sitting on top of the primer. So just very necessary. I want the top of this to be smooth. And now we have a much better chance at it. So another coat of primer over the top of that filler. And time to get ready for some paint. I'm using Evolution Organic White. This is by Farmhouse. This is my favorite paint. This is just a super creamy, luscious white. This is my favorite white. I do dilute it a little bit with some water until it's just thinned a bit for spraying. And we are ready to go. That is looking good. I think this is going to be nice and smooth. It's cramped quarters even in this large 12-foot tent. 81 inches is no joke. This is a big dresser. So first coat of paint going on. This paint has great coverage. And in between coats, so I've just done one coat. You can see it does look a little streaky. And in between coats is when I go in and paint the tops and the sides of the drawers, because I'm painting with the drawers in. And no, they don't stick. It just is a fantastic way to keep the inside of the cabinet clean. And all I need to do is then go in and touch up the top and the sides of these drawers. The sides of the drawers stay very clean. And now I'm going in with a second coat. After the second coat, this is really popping out. If you can see those seams, oh, that drives me crazy. There's no way I can leave that. So I have 9 drawers. Each one has 2 or 3 of these little inset squares, and they all need to be caulked. I'm going to be here a while. So after, let's see, 20 some little squares of caulk, this looks so much better. That is going to paint so nice and just takes that seam away. It looks great when it's stained, it doesn't matter, but when you go to paint, that just stands out. And I did one more coat of paint just to cover the caulk and everything. And then went in with top coat. Now we need to freshen up this beautiful hardware. I do this with a process I call hardware soup. Put everything in a pan, cover it with vinegar and water, 50-50, and boil it for 10 minutes. Once it's done, I put it in the sink and cover it with Barkeeper's Friend. I'm using some steel wool, and you just start scrubbing. But look at the difference. It's amazing. Time to reinstall the hardware. And these all have 2 screws for each one, so they're a little time consuming to get all the hardware back on, but so worth it. This is such phenomenal hardware. Here's a look back at where we started, and this is where we are now. I think it's so fresh and clean. I love a good white, and I love how this turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to follow for more.